especially. It just gives it a clean look without being, you know, artificially shiny.
You just pour it on the leaves? Or?
I know you spray it.
Oh,
yes.
Okay. You said something about spray, and I thought maybe that's.
Yeah,
that's
just
different.
yeah. No, this would be the thing. Just dilute it with water and spray it on the foliage. The nice thing about this product is you don't even necessarily have to wipe it off. You can just kind of do a nice light coating on the leaves and let it dry, and it won't look spotty. So, which is beneficial, because if you're doing a plant like this, it takes a really long time to clean every leaf. So, let's see here now. As for watering plants, that gets a little more challenging. As I said, the plants under lower light probably won't need watering quite as often. It's really difficult to say, water this plant once a week, because conditions change in a home. Again, the air is so dry in there. The soil doesn't always dry out, you know, when change seasons and things like that. A lot of people do just water their house plants once a week. If you can get them to that system, that's great. I've never really done that, so I just, you know, kind of check everybody a little bit. But under low light, they won't need watering as often. Bright light, they will. What we suggest doing, instead of planting directly in a decorative container of any kind, leave the plant in its grow pot. It's much easier to maintain them that way. And that way you can also use almost anything for a container. If you have nice big old syrup pots, those big cast iron pots, and you have kind of a country look in your home, you can set different plants in there instead of worrying about planting directly in it. If you want to use plants that, or pots that have a hole in the bottom, all you do is you put the saucer inside the plant, or inside the pot, just like this. Right? So you don't have to worry about the water running out. If the pot's deep like this, you can actually even set something in the inside of it to kind of stage it up. So you can put that in there and put the plant's saucer in. Leave it in the grow pot and just drop that in there. A little bit of moss to disguise, you know, the top of the pot, so you don't see that in the soil level. And when it's time to water it, all you have to do is take it out. Take it to the sink and water it, or set it outside if it's a long one. And when it's done draining, you just put it back in there. It's much easier than carting around this heavy pot. Trust me. Especially when you get into large plants.
Question about that.
Yes.
Do you think it makes a difference to a plant if a pot is clay or plastic?
Not really. You know, outside, you know, it's going to possibly dry more quickly, you know, one way or another. But no, I mean, for houseplants, set in a decorative container, say use anything you want. Whether it's a basket, I don't have a basket, but whether it's a basket, again, just go by your decor. So really anything goes. Now, the reason we suggest taking them out to the sink to water them is you don't want to let your plant sit in water for extended periods of time. That is a quick way to kill a plant. So that's why we say take it out. If it's a large one like this, take it outside or to the tub, wherever you can. Put your water or fertilizer solution through. I mean, if I was to be watering a plant like this, I would probably take a gallon of water and pour it in there. You know, let the pot fill up, let it drain out, and then go ahead and do it again. If the plant is dried evenly, then it will only absorb as much water as it needs. And everything else is just going to go away. Or drain away. If you have a plant that you know has gotten too dry, sometimes you may need to add a drop or two of dish soap to the water to kind of get this, it acts as a surfactant, whether it's on foliage or wherever. But if you need, when soil dries, it shrinks. And it's harder for the plant, for the soil to be re-moistened. So sometimes just adding a drop or two of dish soap can make that easier. So go ahead and do that. If the soil is really dry, I would actually suggest setting it in something and letting it soak it back up. Okay. Another thing about plants that are really dry, if a plant is really dry and stressed, don't fertilize it at that point. If you want to use something like Super Thrive, that's not a problem because it is not a complete fertilizer. But if your plant is really dry, do not feed it. it is like us. If we're not well, we don't want to sit and have a meal. It's the last thing on your mind. So wait until the soil has been moistened and then water or fertilize it the next time you water it. Okay. Let's see here. One thing I did not talk about yet was orchids, and I know that y'all, probably some of you attended the orchid seminar. They are another one that really are very easy to grow if they're kept away from ceiling fans and they're not kept too wet. It's kind of an anticipation factor because normally they bloom about once a year. So just keep it beautiful, keep it well maintained. After it stops blooming, maybe put it somewhere less conspicuous. And then, you know, later on in the year when it starts to bloom again, go ahead and place it back where you want to display it.
Do you cut it back? I just lost my last bloom on mine.
Okay, I generally suggest that let this old spike brown down naturally. Some people cut them right where the first bloom had come out. So on this one, if the blooms, as they all fall off, you may want to cut it right above where the first one came out. Sometimes they'll produce a side spike off of that, or side branch. You know, to me, I just usually let them kind of brown down naturally. If they don't, then later on, I would probably cut it there. But again, you know, once the blooms are gone, it's just kind of a modest little plant. So you may want to, I keep mine outside almost all the time unless it's going to be really cold. And then as they bloom, I bring them back in the house. Yes, ma'am?
Sometimes they will produce another plant on that
Yes,
spike also.
yes, and that's called a kiki, and they can be left on the plant, and then after the roots have gotten to be, you know, 1.5 inches or 2 inches long, then you can remove them and put them in a potting medium. Yeah, not all of them do that. I haven't noticed it as much as on some of the modern hybrids, but some of the more old-fashioned ones are the ones that I've gotten kikis off of before. So, yes, ma'am.
The Xanadu philodendron. I have one that I've had for years in a pot and set outside in the bed, and it grew out of the pot and into the ground.
Yes.
Too big and almost froze and all this kind of question.
Sounds like success.
Now it's got to be moved and gotten out of that pot somehow. And that's going to do lots of damage to lots of roots. Will the bottom, can it be cut off? Can the top be rooted at all? Will the bottom sprout out at all? Or is it
the bottom would sprout out if you were to cut it off. As to how to start reroot the top part, I'm not quite sure about that. I would think you'd not want to have all that plant material. I think that would not work. If you were to try it, I would say you'd probably want to get just the growing end of it.
Yeah, I think I'll try it because it's gotten so much space that I just wondered about whether I'll try.
Yeah, let me know. Like I say, I think that you'd really want just the end of it because there's no way without some good roots that it would be able to survive with all of that foliage.
And what about the dracaenas, the ones that grow tall and spindly? Will those tops?
Yes, if you cut a dracaena, and the same on a yucca. If you cut this plant, it will produce side shoots from just where it is cut. So yeah, you can't do that.
The goldfish plant, like the little pine.
Yeah, Nematanthus,
Yes. I never succeeded when it gets too sprawly to rooting the tips. Can they be rooted and when's a good time?
I'm not sure of that either. I would imagine that they could be. I don't know that that's when you'd have to separate. I would think you would probably want to take the cuttings and maybe start them in sand or perlite or something.
I never succeeded. I just wondered whether
Well, I would think